We're already in session because we convened from non-public. Now we're going to salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda review. Miss Kathy.
Well, I have under other a field trip to add, and then just assorted miscellaneous items.
Oh, sure. That's done. Now we're going on to acceptance of minutes of our last meeting, please.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair says aye. Public input. 15 minutes, or hold your peace for however long you want to take. That does that one, doesn't it? Student representative report. Abby.
Well, we have not a ton of stuff going on since we just got back from break and didn't have a ton of school last week, which was nice. But we do have our final exams coming up, which is crazy because it means we're almost halfway through the school year. So those start on January 23rd. Just prior to vacation, I mentioned it before, but we had our Wish Upon a Star drive where we, the student council leads the collection of gifts for peers and kids in our local towns in the district. And we gave out over 100 gifts to students, and we received a lot of nice thank you notes and feedback from them, so that was awesome. Mr. Meyer's current issues class had a guest speaker. His name was Professor Francisco Dueña, and he's a professor at Bates College, and he came to speak a few weeks ago about his book called Broke and Patriotic to tie into the class's work on income inequality in America. And the other social studies classes were invited to join in, and staff members including Mrs. Maria Comeau, Mrs. Kelleher, Mrs. Libby, and Mr. Joy also participated. Overall, it was really well received. They had lots of questions, and it was good academic experience. This past Sunday, Kingswood Theater did a collaborative with Brewster Academy and Prospect Mountain, and they did a one-act comedy called Oddball. And teacher Mrs. Payne has been working really hard along with other teachers and students for the Less Plastic initiative, and they're promoting the diminishing of single-use plastic, and they're working hard throughout our school and in our community. And last thing is, the robotics team went to their first robotics competition this weekend for their global kickoff event where they learned their challenge for this year, so they'll be working on that now. And that's all.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
All right, well, I'd like to start out by introducing our new representative from Middleton. Kelly Tivnan is our board representative from the Middleton School Board, so welcome, Kelly.
Welcome, Kelly.
We also have Donna San Antonio here tonight. Many of you may know Donna. She's been a partner with many school district endeavors, and she has an independent research project that she wants to talk with us about, or talk with you about tonight. So, Donna?
Thank you. It's a thrill walking through this door and being with you tonight. I taught in the school district actually from 83 to 87, and then was at Appalachian Mountain Team Project from 87 until 2011. And many of you are involved in one way or another with Appalachian Mountain Team Project. And so I really appreciate being able to talk with you tonight about this other phase of my life that I'm doing now. I'm teaching at Lesley at this time. Terry's uncle was one of my favorite professors at Harvard when I was there. So there's a lot of different connections here that I didn't even know that I had. I have been interested in developmental transitions for a long time. And as you might know, I did a transition study into middle school from grade 6 into grade 7. And then I continued to follow that group into young adulthood. So now I'm really interested in young adults. I've continued to be interested in adolescence, but research interests are around young adulthood. And I think you have, thank you, Linda, for making copies. I think you have the outline. The project is connected to an international effort to really look at what's going on for young adults internationally who are especially vulnerable between the ages of 20 and 25 who don't have a high school diploma and who are working in jobs, and very often working in jobs that they would like to move on from. So what I would like to do is interview 10 young adults from this area who don't have a high school diploma. My interest is because it's really this time, as we all know, it's a time of development when young people are really trying to figure out who they are, what their interests are, what their skills are, and what contribution they can make in the world. But it's also for them to try and figure out what's at the very core of their being, and where can they express that in a way that gives them hope and gratification. And so I'm really interested in this case for how we can work with adolescents in a way so that adolescents that don't finish college or don't finish high school or don't go to college in a way that continues to preserve hope and striving and interest in the future. And what can they teach us? And we can't wait to get going on these interviews to hear what they might be able to teach us at the high school level to prepare those young people who are especially vulnerable to continue their lives in a way that has purpose and meaning. So Crystal Sawyer of the Carroll County Adult Education Program has really generously offered to help me find people who are willing to collaborate with me and do an interview with them. So that's basically it in a nutshell. I'm not going to continue to talk because you might have questions and I'd love to hear them.
So really the reason for the request to come through this group is because of the association with Carroll Academy and the Adult Education Program, because Donna would be working primarily with Carroll Academy.
Can you speak up more?
I'll do my best. We'll be working primarily with Carroll Academy in terms of the students that she would be interviewing, or the people that she would be interviewing. So.
Does it matter if they're over 21? Is there?
Well, I felt like it was important for you folks to make a decision about whether or not you wanted the study to come from Carroll Academy. So they certainly are able to make their own decisions about study participation because of their age. But nevertheless, if it comes through an organization that's part of the school district, I thought you would all want to be aware, and if you felt it was appropriate, to give your blessing.
Yeah, I have no objection to that. I think it's a good idea. Or I think the more information we can learn, the better off we all are. So, I mean, I'd support that. If you want a motion that we support the study that Donna wants to do, I'd support that. I'd make that motion.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, just a quick question, Donna. After reading your report, maybe I missed it, but what are you going to do for feedback once you've finished your study? Is this board going to be able to have access to that
Absolutely.
information?
I really hope to be able to do a presentation in the spring once we have all those interviews transcribed. For you, for whomever is interested. I would be very cautious about confidentiality, so I won't be using names or any identifying information, for example, but, and then it's possible that I know that there'll be a presentation at an international conference. It's in Montreal in June, so I have to get done with all the analysis by then. If I can, I'm hoping that there can also be a publication from this where I would join people from other countries. There are 14 countries involved, and we would compare the results across nations.
So once you compare the results, what kind of action plan? It's nice to have results, but action plan to move forward with, a pilot program to help, kind of motivate folks for a different program.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something, money to fund an action item and a program after the study's completed?
Is there money?
Is there money, once you have the study and you obviously have the findings, and obviously I would say there's probably opportunities in everything that we do. is there monies to go forward for an action item to help kind of build a program? Obviously, I'm sure there's opportunities to build folks up or programs to get them to go to other schools or counseling.
Right.
Is there going to be something to move, the interviewees forward?
Yeah.
It's nice to have the information,
Right.
and it's great.
But, right, I know, but what are you going to do with it?
Exactly. Legislation or
Yes.
some sort of federal program.
Where can it go
or,
from here?
If
Right.
it is, international, some sort of international sponsorship to kind of move it forward if there comes opportunities out of it.
Right.
I think this is step one. I think it's great, Donna.
Right.
I'm just saying,
I know, it would be.
my brain says, okay, this is great, we should absolutely do it, but how do you, bounce off of that?
Exactly. And having been involved in schools for so long, I really don't like just doing research for the sake of research.
Right, and-
Anyway,
right.
so, the transition to middle school study turned into all kinds of things
Yeah.
like Bridges Day
Oh,
here, for
absolutely.
example. But I don't know, there's no money backing any of this
Well,
up.
yeah, right.
So, but there might be funds, and I think what we learn and get out into the community, and the more people are
Could probe
talking
or
about it, there might be
sponsor.
something that comes up, and there might even be funding through
Yeah.
private or public
Right.
grants.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not aware of any
Right.
off the
Okay.
top of my head.
Thank you, though.
Yeah, but I do agree with
Agree,
you.
yeah,
That it would be,
just-
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I'm
Go ahead.
thrilled that the results are going to be available so soon. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was that soon, and certainly anything that you learn that we might be able to share with our high
Mhm.
school folks, just the interviews themselves might shed some light on a few practices that we could tweak. So I'd be
Yeah.
very interested in hearing the
Yeah,
results.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I especially think back, what was the program we discussed in Effingham, at the Effingham meeting where staff are paired up with students to kind of define life goals?
The Renew
The
program.
Renew
Yes,
program, so maybe
yes.
there's
Oh.
information that can get
Yeah,
fed back to the Renew program from
absolutely.
this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The one that we just, in New Durham, that was a good one too.
Yeah.
The one in New Durham.
I'm sitting here thinking, I can't wait to get back involved. I know the Renew program is a terrific program. I've had some experience with that in a different school district, so.
Yeah, well, it
yeah.
seems like it's doing well here, yeah.
Yep, that's a great example of a good project that could come out of this. Yep.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Just as I live it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna. I'm looking forward to the results.
Yeah, I will. I get going right away. Thanks so much. I can't stay for the whole rest of the meeting, but I
That's fine,
appreciate
Donna.
being here. Thank
You always bring good stuff to us.
I think the Apple TV is on, but that's a little remote.
Something like
So far, so good. If it would open, it would be really good.
Be safe to move.
That's not good.
The wonders of modern technology. Mhm.
As you
gonna run the
Do
button?
you want me to?
Sure.
I heard for you to reach over here.
I'll read and you can run the button.
Tyler, I'm gonna do this. Let's do this.
Okay. Good evening and thank you for being here. The school board discusses and adopts the school district budget in early January each year. We had our preliminary budget presentation at our last meeting. At that time, we had not come to an agreement with the Teachers Association. We are pleased that we have come to an agreement with the teachers and are able to present the information tonight. I mentioned at our last meeting that this would change some of the numbers presented last month. I want to thank the members of the Human Resources Committee, Ernie Brown, Bridget Edwards, Kathy Frothingham, who worked long and hard on the teachers agreement, and also the Finance Committee, Bridget Edwards, Dr. Jim Manning, and Stacy Treitz, for their work to bring forth a budget that balances the interests of children, families, and taxpayers. The presentation of the budget each year is done with careful planning and consideration of the short and long-term needs of the district, with students always at the heart of the decision-making. The dollars in the budget reflect the district's goals and services provided. As part of the budget deliberations, we also keep the interests of taxpayers front and center. We know that it is important to bring forth a budget to the voters that is fiscally responsible in order to keep the great support the district has had from our communities over the years. As we prepared the budget this year, these areas were considered priorities: quality programs for students, collective bargaining agreements, economic conditions, protecting our assets, and declining enrollment. Each year, school administrators bring forward recommendations in order to assure that we continue to provide our students with a quality education that will prepare them well for the future. These recommendations are discussed and prioritized. Since not all recommendations can always be granted, the focus is on assuring that students are receiving a quality education and their individual needs are being met. This year, we have discussed 2 collective bargaining agreements that are ending in 2018. The Governor Wentworth Support Staff Association and the Governor Wentworth Education Association agreements. Coming to agreements that are acceptable to all has been a priority for us. Economic conditions are also part of the equation. The Finance Committee considers the factors affecting our citizens, such as the rate of unemployment, consumer price index, and the rate of inflation. It is a balancing act to bring forward a budget that meets the needs of children and considers the taxpayers' ability to pay. Staying ahead of the wear and tear on our buildings and grounds is important. Taking care of necessary maintenance and repairs has been a priority, so we are not being penny wise and pound foolish, as the saying goes. We want to make sure our buildings are protected so that taxpayers don't have higher costs down the road. And of course, we want to maintain a safe and healthy environment for students and teachers. And enrollment. District enrollment overall is down this year. In some schools, Effingham, for example, we have quite a few more students. In Ossipee and Tuftonboro schools, by contrast, enrollment is lower. Enrollment in each school has varied significantly from year to year. This makes planning difficult. However, our schools have shared or transferred teachers to balance the staffing in each school as the enrollments go up and down. Declining enrollment is an issue across the majority of our state. We anticipated the declining enrollment in our local area, and rather than waiting for the other shoe to drop, we have worked with the administration on staffing. Our class sizes have stayed at or below state averages, and staffing is at a level where students' individual education plans can be properly implemented. However, when the opportunity presents itself to reallocate staff or to reduce positions through attrition in a school with declining enrollment, we have done that. As a result, we are in a better financial position than other districts that are now facing the potential of large-scale staff cuts. Over the past several years, the board has developed ways to offset cost increases and the downshifting of costs by the state to the local districts. The additional students from Middleton have been an asset to our student body and a benefit to our revenue, which helps offset the tax rate. The services the Governor Wentworth Regional School District SAU office provides to Middleton helps also. You may remember that the district implemented an energy performance contract a few years ago. This was another way to save money in order to prevent budget and/or staff cuts and to take care of some of our most critical infrastructure issues. Here's a quick budget summary. This quick snapshot shows the major budget categories and the status of each. The total budget increase, including the teacher's contract, is 3.81%. Health insurance, again this year, is the largest increase in the budget at $962,917. As we look further, you will see to the extent we were able to offset the increases by reductions in other areas. The wages reflect a 20% increase in a special education teacher for Effingham in order to implement individual education plans, a 50% increase in the library media specialist position from a half-time to full-time, and the elimination of a half-time library media aide position, both at the Wolfeboro School. A couple of years ago, we reallocated our computer networking classes and only partially filled the position. This year, due to the number of students who are requesting the class, we are recommending that the equivalent of one class be added to the schedule at the Lakes Region Technology Center. The state has warned the district that we are not likely to receive the federal dollars we have received in the past to fund our Title I reading program in Ossipee and Effingham. We feel that eliminating the program would put the students who are currently receiving these services at a severe disadvantage. In order to maintain the program, the equivalent of one full-time position to be shared by the two schools is included in the budget. Due to the number of students with special education needs at Carpenter School, a full-time special education teacher for the school has been requested. However, rather than adding a position to the budget, we are going to ask the administration to look at reallocating a position. Under the general budget, professional services include the cost of the New England Association of Schools and Colleges accreditation process the high school undergoes every 10 years in order to maintain accreditation. This accounts for the majority of the increase. There is also a small increase in funds for the services required for students with disabilities. Grant funds that have been used to provide those services in the past are no longer available. The increase in the athletic line is due to a rate increase for officiating. Several categories have been reduced: tuition, travel, utilities, transportation fuel, supplies, software, and furniture replacement. We are only recommending what is necessary based on projections. The operating budget has an increase of between $2,000 and $3,000. On this chart, it shows $2,606. This is a minuscule increase when you think about the size of the organization. It really is incredibly frugal. In the past few years, we have retired the Ossipee, Effingham, and New Durham bonds. Our debt payment schedule shows a decreasing principal and a rise in interest, but for a total decrease of 0.01%. Each year, we have also presented a capital improvements warrant article in order to provide a safe and healthy environment for our students and staff, and also to protect our assets. For several years prior to the Kingswood project,
The capital improvement warrant article was $200,000. It was reduced during the project and for a few years after that. In 2015, it returned to $200,000. Since the beginning of our energy conservation project, we have again been able to keep the warrant article at $150,000. We know, given the age of some of our buildings, that we will need to increase this in the future. This year, due to other more pressing priorities affecting the budget, we are recommending that the article remain the same, $150,000. Each year, we have also presented a turf capital reserve warrant article. Our beautiful fields have a life expectancy of approximately 12 years at a cost of $700,000 to $750,000 to replace. The capital reserve was established to avoid getting hit with a large expense of replacing the turf all at once. This is a predictable expense and a cost which is more reasonable for taxpayers to manage over time. The Finance Committee is once again proposing to fund the account with monies from the unreserved fund balance not to exceed $60,000. We would like to stay on schedule and have the money available when the replacement is needed. And our two agreements. The support staff GWSSA agreement is an extension of the current contract. It maintains the current benefits with a salary increase of 1%. We are appreciative of our support staff. They provide our students and faculty with important assistance and are some of our hardest working employees. They are critical to the operation of our schools. We feel that the agreement is very reasonable. It does not have a large impact on increasing the budget. The Governor Wentworth Education Association, GWEA, and the school board came to a one-year agreement. Like the support staff, the agreement with our teachers maintains the current insurance and a 1% wage increase. We know our teachers work hard and are committed to our students and the community. Some of you may remember when a few years ago, the teachers donated 5 days of their salary back to the district, and that is an example of their extreme dedication. We are fortunate to have very fine teachers in the district. We feel that 1% is a very reasonable increase and hope that the taxpayers will support both the GWSSA and the GWEA warrant articles. In the revenue portion of the budget, an increase is something we'd like to see because the revenue we receive offsets taxes. State revenue has been decreasing over the past few years, and we anticipate in future years this will continue to be the case if the 4% reduction in stabilization dollars passed by the legislature is not reversed. This year, thankfully, we have a small increase in the state grant, and our local revenue has increased by 2.01%. As we make progress paying off the bond for the Kingswood project and the amount we owe on the principal decreases, the amount of building aid we receive from the state also decreases. And now the default budget. RSA 40:13, the official ballot law, also known as SB 2, determines what is to be included as part of the default budget. The default budget contains the appropriations in the operating budget authorized for the previous year, reduced and/or increased by obligations mandated by law, or previously incurred, such as debt service and contracts. One-time expenditures are not included in the default budget. The purpose of presenting a default budget is to give the voters an understanding of what the budget would look like should the proposed operating budget be voted down. The variance between the default budget and the proposed budget as it stands now is less than 1/3 of 1% of the total budget. Of course, we need to talk a little bit about what we anticipate the effect of the budget will have on property taxes. The chart to the right on the screen shows each town and the anticipated change. Brookfield increases by 67 cents, Effingham decreases by $1.29. New Durham decreases by 18 cents. Ossipee increases by $1.33. Tuftonboro increases by 17 cents. And Wolfeboro increases by 52 cents. These figures assume no increase in property valuation. The economy has been doing much better, and projections for future economic growth are very positive. The current reports on property values estimate a 4% increase in these values. So depending on the valuation, it is possible that the actual tax rate taxpayers will be responsible for paying may be lower. And these are the important dates to remember. Tomorrow is the last day for collective bargaining. Fortunately, we don't have to worry about that. Tomorrow is also the last day for petition warrant articles. January 29th is the last day to post the warrant, budget, and default budget. And February 3rd is a deliberative session at 10 a.m. At the Art Center. And we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Nice job.
Okay.
To the whole time.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate everybody coming, and this is it's a big project to put a budget together. The budget this year is $52 million, which is a huge number. But I appreciate everybody that's here in the district, because I know everybody works really hard, and we do the best we can to get something out there that the taxpayers can support. So hopefully we'll be successful in February and move forward from there. Thanks.
Now I'm going to turn this off.
Go for it.
It's different than mine.
So the next step is approval of the budget.
Yes.
Yes.
And the TVs just be shut off with the remote there. Yeah.
Maybe. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this.
Okay. Okay, so the next process is the adoption of the budget. So I'll move that we adopt the budget as I presented it.
Second.
Motion and second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair will go aye on that, Linda.
And the next thing is warrant.
You should have the warrant in your packet. A lot of papers.
There it is. There it is. Kathy, do you want to read through? Do you want me to read through each one of them, or do you want to read through each one?
We could. Do you want me to?
I can get it to the matter. All right, I'm going to read through the warrant articles, and then at the end, if they're acceptable, then we'll move to approve them the way they are. And it starts out to the inhabitants of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District in the towns of Brookfield, Effingham, New Durham, Ossipee, Tuftonboro, and Wolfeboro, qualified to vote under Governor Wentworth Regional School District affairs. First session of the annual meeting, deliberative session. You are hereby notified to meet at the Kingswood Arts Center in Wolfeboro, New Hampshire on Saturday, the 3rd day of February 2018 at 10 a.m. This session will consist of explanation, discussion, and debate on warrant articles 2 through 9. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant article whose wording is described by law shall not be amended. And B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. The second session of the annual meeting, voting by official ballot. Voting on warrant articles 1 through 8 shall be conducted by official ballot and will occur occur in conjunction with the town meeting to be held in each town on Tuesday, the 13th day of March 2018. Voting shall take place at the following locations and times. I don't know if I need to go through those. Brookfield is 1 to 6, Effingham 11 to 7, New Durham 8 to 7, Ossipee Town Hall 10 to 7, Tuftonboro 8 to 7, and Wolfeboro 8 to 7. Article 1, to choose the following school board officers. School board member from New Durham, 3 years. School board member from Tuftonboro, 3 years. And 1 school board member at large for 3 years. School district moderator, 1 year. Article 2, to see if the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Governor-Wentworth Regional School Board and the Governor-Wentworth Support Staff Association, which calls for following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. Fiscal 2019 estimated increase $103,374. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,474 for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increases in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. And the school board recommends this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 3, shall the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District, if Article 2 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call 1 special meeting at its option to address Article 2 cost items only. And again, majority vote is required. Article 4, to see if the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement between the Governor-Wentworth Regional School Board and the Governor-Wentworth Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. 2019 estimated increase $199,462, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $199,462 for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. The school board recommends this appropriation. Again, majority vote required. Article 5, shall the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District, if Article 4 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call 1 special meeting at its option to address Article 4 cost items only. Again, majority vote is required. Article 6, to see if the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $60,000 to be added to the Turf Field Capital Reserve Fund previously established, and authorize the use of that amount from the June 30th, 2018 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2018. No amount to be raised from taxation. And the school board recommends this appropriation. Majority vote required. Article 7, shall the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for repairs and improvements of buildings and grounds at the Kingswood Regional High School, Kingswood Regional Middle School, Lakes Region Technology Center, Kingswood Arts Center, Carpenter School, Crescent Lake School, Effingham Elementary School, New Durham School, Ossipee Central School, Tuftonboro Central School, and the SAU 49 Transportation Facility. The school board recommends this appropriation. Majority vote required. And Article 8, shall the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $52,409,370. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $52,245,686, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous actions of the Governor-Wentworth Regional School District, or by law, or the governing body, may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, paragraph 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. This article, operating budget, does not include appropriations requested in any of the warrant articles. And again, majority vote required. Should that also say the school board recommends this? We didn't include that in the warrant article. It probably should. So we should add the line to that. The school board recommends this appropriation to that. And then the last Article 9 is obviously to transact any other business that may legally come before the meeting. So that's the warrant article as it's written with that one change. So I ask for a motion to approve the warrant article as presented.
I'll move.
Second.
A motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair says aye, Linda.
All right, now who wants to read what?
Now,
I hope
it's,
Jack gets the budget. Yeah.
All right, I'll put my name on number...
No, unless you'd rather
No,
something else.
No, I'll put my name on number 8.
okay, so number 8 for Jack.
Yeah.
All right. We also have...
I got the first one.
Okay, the first one would be the
State of the school.
school district officers?
No, state of the school.
Oh, yeah.
State of
Yeah,
the school.
would you
you
just-
said,
Oh,
yeah.
you're moving on to Article.
Okay, who'd like to do the support staff?
I can do it. Or someone on that committee wants to do it, that might be logical.
Yeah. Wendy or Kathy?
Yeah, I can do either one. Either one you want me to do? I'll do sport. Okay.
You gonna do support?
Okay, so is that
Wendy.
Wendy?
And the, as a follow-up, you want to do 3, which is just the follow-up to that. If it's defeated, you ask for authorization. I think that probably makes sense.
Yeah, pair them on.
The Article 4, GWEA.
I can do that.
You want to do that, Kathy?
And then the other one is the
And
follow-up.
5 as well,
Yep.
as a backup. Okay, who wants to do the turf field? I know,
Jim?
Well, I can do it. Go ahead, Julianne, you can do it.
yeah, Julianne? Okay, Julianne does the turf field.
Billy and Manon should really handle that.
Okay, and Ernie, you're going to do the
Yes.
number 6, number 7?
7.
Done.
All right. Next up is calendar. Okay. You have a draft 2 calendar in your packet. Lisa and I had a fair amount of conversation about the calendar, so I'll just go over with you what the considerations have been. It's really amazing how many different things you have to think about when you construct the calendar.
Can I just quickly, the one
Sure.
that was in our packet, our electronic packet, was that a draft 1?
That was draft 1.
So can you just highlight the difference between 1 and 2 maybe, if
Sure.
there are significant?
Sure.
I got draft 1 behind me.
So probably the major, well, there are 2 differences. One, there was an extra teacher day in the first draft, so we didn't want to keep the extra teacher day in. I think Lisa thought we were trying to slip that in, but. So that was taken out. The other change that was significant is that initially, we had November 6th, which is an election day, as parent-teacher conferences, realizing that we didn't want students in the building, but perhaps that was a day that we could use for parent-teacher conferences so that the end of the school year wouldn't come so late. But in discussing that, I think Lise and probably the folks that she conferred with felt that many parents bring children in when they come to voting, so maybe that wouldn't be the best idea. And the fact that we have moved to a trimester schedule at the elementary level, if we did the the parent conferences a little bit later, that would give teachers a little bit more time. So in the second draft, you'll see that it was changed to the week of Thanksgiving, which we had been there previously. And the reason we wanted to stay away from that because it was later, but then on the other hand, if you do it any other time in November, you have 2 days the kids are in 1 week, 3 days the kids are in another week. And it's really difficult, I think, for families and kids to be in and out of school and in and out of school. So it seemed like that week of Thanksgiving would really be a week that would work well for families, even though it's a little bit later than we would typically do parent conferences. So unfortunately, with not having school during the voting days, it does push our calendar out a bit, so it's a little bit more challenging to make it all work. So other considerations were, we always try to start after Labor Day because that's important to the business community, and we certainly understand why that is. We also need to have our schedule somewhat consistent with the sending schools because of our vocational center, so that's another consideration. We want them to somewhat align with quarters and trimesters, so that's a consideration. So it does mean that there are some significant limitations. And although I'd like to see the school, hopefully we won't have too many snow days, but you can never count on that. So.
Is it too early to comment or ask questions?
Well, ask questions, or have a motion, and then
No, ask your questions first.
questions first. It's okay. No, it's fine. Do that.
When we, maybe this is to the teachers in the group, when we tagged, back when we had parent-teacher conferences the week of Thanksgiving, did you notice any, were the numbers, the turnout, was it good or had it dropped some? Because I often think, or my instinct tends to think, well, parents might think we can leave for grandma's on Tuesday now instead of Wednesday.
They would have to.
I think I can speak for elementary.
And then I want to hear, and then I want to say, if we only have, and then if we're having a half day on Monday, our family's going to say, forget it, let's just, why stay around for a half day that week? So now, Lisa, I want to hear from you.
I can tell you from elementary, generally speaking, I've had half of my conferences not even when they're supposed to be scheduled. Because for, basically when school's in session, it's daycare. So they come just before school or just after school, typically the week before. So the report cards are not an issue this time. So I don't think it affects attendance one way or the other, quite frankly, because it depends on the family's schedules. I too am concerned about that half day on that Monday, because some families probably will not. They'll take advantage and travel to wherever for the whole week instead of for 5 days. Honestly, I don't think there's any time you could schedule parent conferences that'll fit everybody. And that's not even middle school compared to high school compared to elementary. It's just families. It depends on what their big plan is. I believe wholeheartedly in what Kathy said, that if we don't have it that week, it is so disruptive to the kids that it's almost harmful, quite frankly, because I can speak for the elementary, they just never get on a roll when it's just choppy like that.
You, if it goes back to the draft number 1, as far as having the half day on the 5th, and I know the concern about having the parents come in, do you think, because even you said that some of the parents are already coming in before or after school, that for those parents that choose not to come in on the 6th, you would be able to get them in.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, there's a week in between there too.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I was concerned of on the 6th was, so I'm second grade, but then we have 3- and 4-year-olds coming in and they're running around. The whole idea of not having school on those days was to keep the kids out of the school. And not only do we have the students that we're meeting about, but we have their siblings running around too. And it just seems like it's sending two two messages. It didn't seem to make sense.
Because it might bring them out of vote.
Well.
Why they're there, if their polling location is at the school.
Like drag kids around guns,
Oh,
so.
it's-
It's a dilemma. It seems like there's just no real good time to do
I
it.
mean, I think that my hangup is that half-day Monday. Like, how else can we reallocate it? And if we're gonna take off 4.5, well, not take off 4.5 days, I don't know what the value of bringing students in for a half of a day is. I don't have a solution, though.
The only other thing that we could do is take that 5th and the 6th and do a half day on the 8th and then a day parent conferences on the 9th. That would, but you still got that choppiness there. I mean, you could do that.
No, because I think
The
that,
6th off, we're voting, so.
you have the 6th off.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Right.
Thursday.
Well,
Right.
the
You have
6th is a
Tuesday,
closed,
you have a Monday,
closed day
Thursday.
anyway.
Right. There's no, we'd have to still close that, so then you've got 2 days of school that week, 2.5 days. So,
So I know we moved to full day in-service days,
Mhm.
and I get the value of that.
yeah,
If we allocated half of the 19th to an in-service day, is there a more logic, could we have another half, I know we really moved away from it, I just, that half a Monday
Yeah.
just seems like you
Yeah.
barely get in the door and get your
Is-
settled and you're done for the
Does the
week.
agreement
yeah.
require a day and a half?
I mean, the only
parent
thing
conference.
that we could do if we,
Yeah.
It does?
It's in our contract, it's
Yeah.
gonna be in our contract.
Okay, that.
That's
Yeah,
what we're
sure.
allocating.
That's fine.
So is it,
My answer is yes.
so yeah, but,
Ah, sure.
if we had no school that day, we could do half a day in service in the morning. But then we would have to find that day someplace
Another-
else
yeah,
in the
yeah.
calendar. So we could move that, it would be, again, it would be later, it would be a later end. We'd have to end on the 20th.
But let me ask you this, listening to what Liz said, if parents are coming in when it's convenient for them,
Yep.
whether it be the week before or whenever it's convenient, does it really make a lot of sense to have the kids in there half a day anyway?
But
To-
then you lose a school day.
Well, but what if you only have 50% attendance? Does it count as a day or not?
Now, here's
Holiday.
another thing that we could do. We don't have to have 180 days. We could do a 179-day calendar. I'd like to move toward 180 days because I'd like kids to be in school for the
Sure.
maximum amount of time. On the other hand, you know, if it's the general consensus that that half-day is not a productive day anyway, then we could leave that as is and use that as a professional development morning.
Well, I'm just wondering, in the past, you know, we've gone Monday and Tuesday as school for the most part on Thanksgiving Day.
During that week.
During that week. And so at least the parents have some responsibility to get their kids there.
Yep.
But I think it's a very good point, a half-day on Monday, if they have plans, if they, you know, maybe they just have other things going on because it's Thanksgiving week and they know you don't have to go on Tuesday, you know, so maybe they just don't want to go. I think that half-day creates more of an issue. If we're going to have like if go to draft one where you have the Monday and Tuesday as regular school days, that's okay. But then, you know, where do you do the parent-teacher conferences? If you're going to do the conferences on that week, then I say, you know, the half-day to me just doesn't make any sense.
So what if we do this? What if we do, instead of that half-day for students, use that half-day as professional development for teachers? And then they'd have a day and a half of parent conferences.
Mhm.
And so that week is a no-school week essentially for students.
Yeah.
And we're at 179 days. We
Well,
still
could-
fill our hourly requirements.
But in March,
Could we
make that a half day.
yeah, could we make one of the in-service days a half-day then? I know we didn't want to go that way, but
On March 12th.
That's always that argument again. Right?
Yeah, but that's a voting day again.
Yeah, but not every half day is on a voting day, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
We pair them up that way.
Yeah.
Well, this year,
Because the
that's not
schools
the
are
case.
closed voting days now, so that's why we do
Oh.
this.
Let's pair them off.
Voting,
I
primary.
really have no issue with going with the 179 days if that's the case. I mean, I'd like to, get it to 180,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I just want to go back, the parent-teacher conferences, it's a day and a half,
Day and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we have,
Three.
Which used to be after school.
per calendar year, because it looks like March 12th is a,
That's a voting day.
It's
Oh.
voting
Yeah,
day.
that's a voting day, so that's professional development.
but is that March
Professional
12th not for
development.
conferences?
No.
It says
No.
in-service conferences in the key.
It's professional development.
Okay.
The only day that's in service and conferences would be
The 20th.
in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's tough,
yeah.
isn't it?
I mean,
Frustrating.
I think of the cost of just running buses
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
a half day alone, the fuel and.
I mean, how productive is that half day going to be for students? I mean,
Well, especially before Thanksgiving break.
We work.
Yeah.
We work with who shows up.
Yeah, but are the kids there to do anything that day? Or they-
Well, 7-year-olds are there, they work. I mean, this year, we have 178 days.
Yeah.
So if we go to 179, at least we're getting one more day with our kids. So it's an improvement. Is it perfect? No. This is not politically correct to say this, but if we started before Labor Day, some of these problems would go away. But I get why we don't do that. But you get what I'm getting at. I mean, there's only so many days in between, and nobody, including me, wants to go to school until, June 30th.
And I've heard arguments both ways.
Yep.
Well, why don't you start before Labor Day? It would make life a whole lot easier. Then
Yep.
I hear from some of the business people, boy, I'm glad you guys don't start before Labor,
I know.
So you hear it from
Just
both.
comes right back, you can't please everybody.
I'm sorry, this is kind of informal, but I'm just curious, I don't know the trimester
Schedule, or when like the first trimester ends, but do the conferences have to be in November, or does the trimester give us a little more room that they could be like the first week in December, the conferences? I don't know, just a thought. I think that we always think about November because of the schedule. And the other thing is, I just have to say this, the fact that we don't have school because we have voting in our schools, which is the right decision, but it's because of the safety of our kids with the open carry law. And I would just love for us to try to think about changing that. I know I'm a social studies teacher, I'm all about change, but I mean, we're just having this discussion. It's obviously problematic, on a couple of different levels. So that's a different issue for a different day, but I just would like to throw that out there. But I'm just wondering, with the trimester, does that give us a little more room? I don't know. No?
That's late to have your first meeting with parents. It really is. I mean, if we really wanted to get it out of November, the only option is October. And I've heard from teachers that October is too early.
That's too fast.
Okay. Just a thought.
Well, when we were doing the reconstruction of this building and this whole complex, we ran up against the same problem. We had no choices because, to be honest with you, there were parts that were tearing the building down.
Right.
We had to close for that week. Then we put the conferences. They were, I think Lisa vouchers, they were reasonably well received. Not well, but reasonably well. Well, we survived it. We're also now at a point where we're transitioning from trimesters on one hand, and there's still quarters going on another one. So we have dynamic, it's double there. So I think we need to stick with something closer to November.
I know, but I agree with Kim. I think we need we have been very good partners with Effingham and New Durham for quite some time, and it's impacting our children's education for voting. I think we all need to sit together as community members and try to figure out a solution. I wasn't on the board then, and I worked with our selectmen in New Durham to try to get them out of this, get it out of the school. I just think we need to collectively come to some agreement because it's impacting the kids' bottom line. That's my opinion.
So Kathy, would you prefer draft number 1 or draft number 2?
Well, I would be fine with draft number 2 with just eliminating that half day. And then we will really try to get to 180 days next year, if everyone is good with that solution.
In that case, I would move the acceptance of draft number 2 as amended.
Sometimes it's when Labor Day falls.
Yeah, that is.
Well, I'll second Ernie's. So we're looking at draft number 2 and eliminating the half day on the 19th as a student half day, correct?
Yes, converting to an in-service day.
Half day in service and then
Half day, parent teacher.
All right, I'm good with that.
I have a motion and a second. Do you hear any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair will go aye on that one.
All right.
Thank you for the note, really. Releases.
The workers' compensation, or rather contribution assurance program, Mary, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. On the agenda, it says workers' compensation, but it's actually the property and liability coverage that we have.
Oh. Yeah.
So Primex is our insurance carrier, and what they're proposing is a 3-year maximum 7% each year for an increase. The last 4 years, we've been at 9%. We've reached that 9% in 3 years, and the last year it was actually a negative 1.3%. So it's not always the max, but what they're asking for, if we want to agree to another 3 years at 7% max.
How much does that equate to roughly 7%?
Let's see, I think
I should know that.
it's about 120. No, it is about $9,000.
$9,000.
But like I said, it doesn't always go to the max. And it is 2% less than it has been.
I think, yeah, I mean, Primex is a good partner, I think, so I'll move that we accept Primex's proposal for a 3-year agreement with a maximum increase of 7% per year.
Do I have a second?
I see what you're saying.
Second. I have a second. Tim, thank you. Discussion?
So this just could go
It
up
could
to,
go
or
up to,
Right.
could go up to
locks in
7,
at
or no more than 7.
Okay.
Less than,
So we, yeah.
2% less than what we did.
Yeah. and last year she didn't actually look at. So,
Yeah. All right. Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair will say aye to that.
Okay. On to other. It has been quite a couple of weeks as far as the weather goes, as you all know, and now it's balmy out there. But I want to start out by thanking our maintenance staff because they did an incredible job getting the buildings ready, watching over the buildings to make sure that we didn't get frozen pipes. When we needed to get kids into school, they came in early, did all the shoveling, and everybody pitched in and just worked very hard. They really did a fantastic job. So I just wanted to make sure that that they were commended for their dedication and the work they put in. Phil and Mary were watchful over the buildings and making sure that we didn't have any issues, although we did have one issue in Effingham, which I think you all know. We needed to close Effingham School. And it was not, it took a while to get to the bottom of the problem. It was not the boilers, and I think that would have been a big worry because we have those beautiful new boilers, but it was actually the tanks. The propane wasn't boiling properly in the tanks. And so they gave us some temporary tanks, and they're going to need to bury those tanks more deeply. So it should be, not a difficult fix, and they're going to do it obviously at no charge. But it did put a glitch into things, and obviously it wasn't great to have to close school, but that was the reason for it. As usual, I always do try to, when I can, let families know the night before. Sometimes that's not possible. We had one delay that other districts did delay earlier, and I'm actually in communication with the other superintendents the night before, but their circumstances were all very different than our circumstances, so I needed to wait until the morning to make that decision. But parents should always feel free to keep their children home if they have any worries about that. Some good news, our Kingswood boosters have received a donation of support from the Lois G. Roy Dickerman Fund of $500, and I think part of the donation was recognizing their participation in New Hampshire Tackles Hunger, which I think is really, really nice. Kudos to that group. On another note, we received a note from the Jean P. Roberts Trust to the district office that there is property on McManus Road and other property on Pleasant Valley Road that is for sale. And I could not think of any reason why we would be interested in that, but I just felt obligated to bring that to you in case there's something I'm not thinking about that I should be. So, and other than that,
Field trip.
I
Field
do
trip?
have a field trip,
Field trip?
yes. And the field trip is from the vocational center. Lakes Region Technology Center. It is the FFA, and it's their winter leadership camp at Camp Brookwood. This is something that they do every year. It's an overnight trip, and the person in charge is Bob Gagney. They'd be going on a district bus. There are 12 male students, 5 female students, and 2 chaperones, a male and a female, and then I understand that the person running the activity would also be staying. So the person from the outside running the activity, not our staff. So
I'll move the field trip request from the Lakes Region Technology Center for FFA Winter Leadership Camp at Camp Brookwoods.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair will go by.
okay. And then the last item is the legislative update, and there is so much legislation on deck right now, I can't even get through all of it. So I've never seen a year where there's been so much, really. So I just have a couple of things to talk with you about tonight, not in great detail, but just to let you know they're happening. And I will get you the text of the bills because 4 of them are about cooperative school districts, and you're going to want to know what's in them. I also have reached out to the School Boards Association and got an analysis of each of them for you. And I will be putting something together because, unless I hear from you telling me that you don't think that's a good idea, I'll be putting something together to share with our legislators. And if I have the opportunity to do testimony on Wednesday, I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that, but if I don't, I will submit some written testimony. The first one is SB 193, and that did pass. Now it's going to go to financial. There's been some competing public comment about this as far as what the dollars and cents of it really mean. As far as I can see, if it were implemented to its maximum, our district could be impacted by as much as $127,000. And while that may not sound like much in a budget of the size of our budget, that's at least a teacher. a teacher plus. And all of the little ways in which we're losing dollars, whether they're federal or state dollars, that certainly does impact us overall. So there are a number of other things that are problematic with the bill. Children need to sign out of special education. There's no provision for dual enrollment. There's no standard for if parents decide that they want their children to go to another school and then they're given that contribution, then what happens if they come back to the district? So there are a lot of things that really haven't been thought about in this bill, and hopefully a lot of that information will get back to the legislature. There are several bills involving cooperative school districts, HB 1469, and that's regarding the dissolution of cooperative schools. And I think that one's more specific to a particular district. There's another one relative to the withdrawal process, and that has a provision for an appeal to the state board. There's another that I think someone here is familiar with, that's HB 1452, and that's using equalized property value to apportion expenses in cooperative school districts. And then there's HB 1594, relative to disposition of property upon withdrawal from cooperative school districts, and providing the withdrawing district with the property within its boundaries. And there really, in my opinion, hasn't been enough financial analysis done on that one to really understand what that means. The biggest problem with all of them, from my perspective, is that it seems to take things out of your hands and put the business of cooperative districts in the hands of the legislature. And, I thought that we were going to see more local control, not less. So that's just my general thought about them. And that's it. Other than School Boards Association, Jack, I know that
Yep.
there are a packet of resolutions.
Yeah, the delegate assembly is this Saturday, so I'll be spending my Saturday down in Concord, which is always a fun day. You have a packet in your from the School Board Association. There's 5 new resolutions that have been proposed. 3 of them are not being recommended by the New Hampshire School Board Association Board of Directors. 1 is being recommended with a alternative language. But if you want to read through them, and if you have any comments between now and Saturday, certainly give me a buzz, and I'll voice your opinions on Saturday when I'm down there. And next Thursday is my first meeting with the NHIAA. So that'll be a good time.
Can I just back up to other for a moment?
Sure.
Yeah.
As far as Effingham, has it been determined how they're going to handle the no school day?
No, because I have a lot of things I need to look into as far as that
Okay.
goes. For example, those days in October that were emergency days. So
Gotcha.
there are a few things that I need to figure out how the Department of Education is going to handle
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Linda, unless I missed my guess, I don't have any chairman's report in my packet.
There's one in there. Maybe at the end?
Oh, no, sorry.
I
Okay.
have paper tonight.
Chairman's report. Well, it's not that. It's stuck on that thing. Expression of sympathy went to Sandy Bellamare, paraeducator, on the passing of her mother. Kathy Kukal, retired administrator, on the passing of her father. Get well wishes went to Linda Perro, district grant writer and counselor, as she recovers from surgery. Congratulatory wishes went to Shannon McCarty, dear I'm going to blow that one. Dratco. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
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 Teacher on the birth of her daughter. And that will do it. Committee reports. Stacy.
Academic Affairs met earlier tonight. We're here for a second reading and approval of 2 policies, JGA, Student Electronic Communications, as well as the associated reg, JGAR, Internet Acceptable Use Agreement. We had a read through at our previous meeting, so I'll be looking for a motion, short of any other input.
You also want a motion to strike the
Sure.
other 2?
So we're going to look to strike these 2 policies that we're looking to approve tonight. will replace multiple other policies that address different aspects of it. So we're looking to strike EGAE, Internet Acceptable Use Policy, Permission for Student Use, EGAR, Guidelines for Acceptable Use of Internet, EGAA, Staff Access to Network Information Resources, and EGAAR, Staff Access to Networked Information Resources. You'll recall earlier this school year, we approved electronic communication policies that really mirror these two student ones that apply to staff. And then we're also looking to strike policy IJNDB, School District Internet Access for Students. So.
Okay. I'll move that we approve policy JGA, JGAR, and the elimination of the policies as just explained.
Yeah.
Second.
Come on, Jack, I want you to read the whole list.
Make it easy, no, that's okay.
I have a motion, second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair will go aye on that one, don't believe me. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Stace.
welcome. We did talk a little bit more about homework. I know we've brought it up periodically in the past couple meetings. So just to let you know, you're not going to hear from us for a little while on that, but we are looking, our goal is to have a new homework policy implemented for the next school year. So maybe stay tuned spring. Maybe it'll resurface at this table.
Thank you, Stace.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Ernie, building maintenance.
Just want to say thank you to our maintenance staff for taking such good care of our schools and getting them open with these brutally cold temperatures. Because of that, the committee is going to take a break, and after the deliberative session, we'll give our staff some time to do some homework. We're going to meet as a building and maintenance committee and start getting into these roof issues.
Jack,
No, I
finance.
said enough.
Julianne, public relations.
I have nothing.
Jack, we're back to school and human resources.
Well, from Human Resources, I just thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it, and thank you for the hard work. Really do appreciate it. I'm done.
Okay, closing activities, advanced planning. Well, we know that there are meetings coming up. Attend them. Rarely do we have a meeting where anybody shows up that means anything. It'd be nice if somebody did at some point. Public input. Deathly quiet period when I say that.
Thank you for the book that you purchased on trauma-sensitive schools, and more importantly, thank you for being aware that that is something that could be helpful to many of the students here.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, please.
Well, I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that Kathy and I think we work quite well together, and sometimes under stressful circumstances, that it means a lot to me that you're not making these decisions in a vacuum, that we're part of the process, and it's very helpful.
Thank you. Anything else? Closing comments. Yeah, Bridget, go for it.
Welcome, Kelly. Nice to have you. Also, I wanted the Make-A-Wish, the 100 gifts. That's great. It's nice to hear that everyone's enjoying. That's it.
I have none.
Welcome, Kelly. Thanks for coming. It's been a cold couple of weeks as I work outside. So I just want to reiterate what Ernie said and thank all the custodial staff, the maintenance staff, for what a great job they've done. Not only the hallways and the snow plowing, the snow removal, keeping our kids safe. Thank you.
As you talk about all the legislation that's out there this year, and I think this year perhaps there's more that has the potential to impact us locally, I think I need to do more to reach out to my legislators to have my voice heard. But, I think, and I respect the job they do. They don't get paid a lot of money, but they go to Concord and they have to deal with a lot of different topics. But personally, I don't think I've ever had one reach out to me as a local district representatives. And I don't know if you hear from them, Kathy at the office, or any other members do. So really, as we go into a new year and we have these things, I really would invite them to have this two-way communication. I think we get focused locally, but we need to make our voice heard in Concord. But we need to work together and really look at what's the best interest of our district and understand the ramifications. That's all.
Well, they did so well, so yes, everything to what they just said. But I did want to add that I drove past New Durham School, and Ernie, you might have mentioned this already, but where the clock tower was, their project that they had been working on is up in place, and it's just beautiful. So if you haven't seen it, swing by New Durham School and check it out. They've done an excellent job as far as putting something other than a clock up there. So it looks great.
Is Effingham looking into doing something similar?
I have not.
Your pressure. Somebody could plant an idea.
Okay.
Okay, a couple of thank yous. First of all, again, thank you for being here. Thank you to the GWA negotiating team. It was a little bit of a challenge, but we got through it, which is great. Thank you to the Human Resources Committee again, and the Finance Committee, and thank you to Kathy and Mary for all the hard work they did on both fronts. Huge amount of work, and really appreciate the efforts that went into putting everything together and being able to present a budget that kind of makes sense. So thank you.
Abby, 100 gifts. Absolutely great. You know, we ask our students to get involved in the community, and we're seeing absolutely excellent results, and very helpful for the people. For Jack, chairing both the negotiations and the budget, thank you for carrying a very heavy load. I spent a lot of time sitting there listening to you going, yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right. And it's a lot of work on your part, and I appreciate it. And of course, you were backed up by Mary and Kathy. And it is probably one of the most difficult things the school board does is negotiations. So thank you for your effort. That's very much appreciated, and that's all I've got.
Welcome to Kelly, and I want to say the same thing. Thank you to the maintenance staff for keeping our schools accessible and warm, but also to transportation for the buses. I know how early, because I hear it from Tim, they have to get up to get those buses warmed up and to get our kids here safely. So thank you, and thank you all for being here.
Again, thank you to the maintenance and custodial staff. I work pretty closely with them, and everybody really stepped up this weekend, so thank you. And welcome, Kelly. It's good to have you here.
Abby?
Pretty much the same as everyone else, but thank you especially to the maintenance staff, because some of us in the high school have to walk back and forth from the art center, and it makes it a lot easier when it's cleared. And I know it's cold, but they put in a lot of hard work, and we really appreciate it. And
Kelly,
welcome.
I won't make you do it unless you want to.
Happy New Year to everyone. Kelly, welcome. Abby, thanks for always sharing such great highlights with us. And so nice to see all the staff here and just be reminded of what a great district we work in, and how I'm so grateful that our decision making is always about what's best for kids, and that's for all of us involved in the district. And thank you, James, for being here.
I'm always last.
Next to last, I follow next.
I want to thank Mary, because she does work very closely with maintenance staff, so all of the things that they're doing during these stressful times with snow and weather, etc., Mary is right there helping them, guiding them, and all of the budget materials as well. So it's been a very busy time for Mary, and she's always there doing a great job. So thank you, Mary. Ditto what Stacy had to say about legislation. I think right now there are some critical things that affect us more perhaps than in the past, so I think it probably is time to reach out to the legislators a little bit, and vice versa, so that they really, because sometimes I don't think without having that discussion they really understand the full impact on the districts and schools. So negotiating team, thank you very much. I knew that we would get through it, but you know, it was a negotiation. So that's kind of the way it goes. So I'm pleased with where we ended up, and I think that's enough. Jim, your turn.
Kelly, you get away this time, and next time you have to say something. Be aware. I spent the day in Ospey, actually at King Pine, on the ski program. They were marvelous. I can't say enough about the way the teachers up there are handling their kids. It was a terrific job. I'm not bragging because one of them is my son, but hey, listen, he's toeing the mark, I think, well enough. When I was up there, I did notice one thing that's really surprised me. A lot of the King Pine people were putting out a lot of effort for some of the special education kids. They were assigning 2 and 3 instructors per child. And the kids obviously were benefiting by it. I saw one little guy that I've known for many years who probably can't physically do anything right, but he was skiing like a banshee. So I kudos to them. They did a great job, and I hope everybody, make sure they know that, people. Spread the word there, you. I know you're already here. Nicole, you're here, so you count. Thank you very much. I take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair says aye in the row.
Don't leave without the picture.
Oh, yeah. We have the big picture time, people.
You're done.
Got that nice picture.